As part of the visit of Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi to Venezuela, both countries have signed several memorandums of understanding that mark a strengthening of bilateral relations. Peru's hospitals are overcrowded with children and elderly people in the midst of the worst dengue outbreak ever recorded in the country. Cuban health authorities take corresponding actions to counteract epidemiological complications that may arise due to continuous rains. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In the presence of President Nicolás Maduro and President Ibrahim Raisi, the Ministry of Representatives of Venezuela and Iran signed several memorandums of understanding that mark a strengthening of bilateral relations. The delegation signed 18 bilateral memorandums of understanding in different sectors in order to promote the development of their economies for the benefit of their countries. The leaders shared the vision of defending the self-determination of the peoples while reiterating their rejection of the imposition of unilateral coercive measures by the United States. Likewise, Caracas and Tehran established a roadmap for cooperation for the period 2022-2042 for the development of Iran-Venezuela relations. After the signing of mutual cooperation agreements at the Miraflores Palace, Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi spoke about the resistance of both peoples to the system of world domination and how they have always been together in all difficult moments.
The great people of Iran and the great people of Venezuela, we look for resistance, freedom, justice. We are famous for that. And we also look for independence and justice in the world. The people of Venezuela is always side by side with the Iranian people. Both our countries look for freedom, and we have resisted in the face of the world domination system. Our both countries have a common enemy. And many other allies of this enemy that don't want Iran and Venezuela to be independent. For years, we have maintained this friendship with the people and the government of Venezuela, and we have given proof of this friendship. We have been friends in the most difficult times.
For his part, President Nicolás Maduro remarked that the visit of President Ibrahim Raisi marks a milestone in the relationship between the Islamic Republic of Iran and the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela.
This visit marks a new milestone in a relationship that has been built from solidarity, from brotherhood, from cooperation of two peoples, of two revolutions, of two countries, born to be brothers. The Islamic Republic of Iran and the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela.
On Monday, during his morning conference, Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador reacted to the resignation of Foreign Minister Marcelo Ebrard from the Foreign Relations Ministry.
This week, we will announce who will replace Marcelo Ebrard. And also this week, the Secretary of Government, Adán Augusto López Hernández, will surely present his resignation. Both are very good public servants who will now participate, and surely the head of government will do the same. The coordinator of the governors, Ricardo Monreal, and if his party supports him to participate, he will ask for a license. In this case, I don't know what is being proposed.
The Mexican president also emphasized that he will expose cases of corruption within the judiciary.
We are going to use a two-way mechanism to control corruption, which is unleashed in the judiciary. The attitude of judges, magistrates, and ministers in general. First, we will make the case known here.
Cuba's Prime Minister Manuel Marrero Cruz paid tribute on Monday to the historic leader of the Cuban Revolution, Fidel Castro, at the monument erected at Moscow district of Sokol. Marrero Cruz thus began his official visit to Russia. The tribute was attended by members of the government delegation that has been visiting Russia since June 6. Earlier, the head of the government of the Caribbean country held a meeting with members of the Cuban State Mission in Moscow, where a representation of students of the scholarship plan of Russian universities for Cuba participated. The Cuban premier arrived in Moscow from Sochi, where he participated in various events of the Eurasian Economic Union and took part in the Eurasian Intergovernmental Council and in the Third Eurasian Congress. Marrero Cruz will be in Russia until the 17th, and after finishing the official visit, he will participate in the International Economic Forum in St. Petersburg. China ratified on Monday that nothing can destroy its sincere friendship with Cuba, no matter how much the United States misinforms and defames in rejection of the allegations about the supposed construction of a spy center on the Caribbean island. The spokesman for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Wang Wenmin, stated that the contradictions presented in a short time about the information evidences Washington's lie. One considers the information disseminated by Washington about the alleged construction of a spy base in Cuba to be inconsistent. The spokesman emphasized that despite spreading such slander, the White House will not affect the friendly and fraternal ties between Beijing and Havana. Last week, the spokesman himself demanded Washington not to meddle in the internal affairs of the Caribbean island and accused the U.S. of spreading slander, taking part in covert activities, committing crimes, and maintaining an illegal base and prison in Cuba's territory. Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva presented on Monday the new literacy policy that will set the guidelines in the country, as it is considered the main education program of his government. According to a message on Lula's Twitter account, his administration begins with the national commitment for a literate childhood to resume the federal government's attention to Brazilian basic education and guarantee that 100% of Brazilian children will finish the second year of primary school knowing how to read and write. The previous week, the Minister of the Sector, Camilo Santana, advertised that it will be his ministry's biggest program. Santana also assured that the new policy was cemented through conversations with municipal education secretaries and with the Union of Municipal Education Leaders. Hospitals in Peru are overcrowded with children and elderly patients amid the country's worst dengue outbreak on record. With the El Niño climate phenomenon now underway, bringing heavy rains and mosquitoes, dengue has spread fiercely in the South American country, with the death toll this year surpassing 200 and over 130,000 cases recorded, double the number of the last outbreak in 2017. Heavy rains and hot weather have made the northern region of Piura the epidemic epicenter, which alone has reported nearly 40,000 cases and more than 60 deaths. Dengue fever is a mosquito-borne tropical disease caused by the dengue virus. Symptoms typically begin 3 to 14 days after infection and may include a high fever, headache, vomiting, muscle and joint pains, and skin rash.
High fever and abdominal aches on the first day, then vomiting and diarrhea on the second and third days. Then I took her to the hospital's emergency room because her fever didn't go away.
In Piura, 30% of infected persons are children, and their cases can soon turn fatal. Pediatricians are needed because their knowledge is not the same as that of a general practitioner. They understand how the disease develops and what to do at each stage.
Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. All the stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back from the South. The President of Turkey, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, paid an official visit to the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus on his first official visit after his re-election. The Turkish President greeted the citizens, then signed the special notebook of the city and visited the Ataturk monument in Lefkosia. The Turkish head of state held talks with the Turkish Cypriot President Ersin Tatar at the presidential palace for about an hour. The meeting was attended by several cabinet ministers. In this connection, Recep Tayyip Erdogan will travel to Azerbaijan to discuss the next steps for the development of bilateral relations. NATO's biggest air deployment exercise ever over Europe, hosted by Germany, got underway on Monday. As announced last week, it involved some 10,000 participants and 250 aircraft from 25 countries, which will be responding to a simulated attack on a NATO member. The United States alone is sending 2,000 U.S. Air National Guard personnel and about 100 aircraft. Sweden, which is hoping to join the alliance, and Japan are also taking part in the exercise. Officials said that Germany's air traffic control authorities has worked with the Air Force to keep disruption to a minimum. The drill is limited to 3 areas which won't be used simultaneously, and it will be over before school vacations start in any German state. This drill, called Air Defender 2023, will run through June to the 23rd. In all Israeli prisons, preparations for the general strike called by Palestinian prisoners arrested under the violating figure of administrative prisoners have begun. The call was made by the Committee of Administrative Detainees, recently created by the Supreme Emergency Committee of the National Movement of Prisoners in Palestine. Under the motto Revolution for Freedom, Intifada of Administrative Prisoners, they start on Monday the operatives for the fast fixed, starting from June 18th, when the prisoners on the administrative regime will refuse to eat food or liquids. They assure that it is a strategy of struggle so that the occupier respects the norms of international law. We have a news update. We are going live to Venezuela. We are going live to Venezuela. We're watching live images at the Miraflores Palace as the work agenda of the day comes to an end, and President Nicolas Maduro says farewell to President Ibrahim Raisi at the Miraflores Palace. Today's agenda on the meeting has been a fruitful one, where they reached several agreements. Delegations signed over 18 bilateral memorandums of understanding in different sectors with one clear goal. Over 25 agreements were signed with a clear goal in the different sectors in order to promote the development of their economies for the benefit of their countries. The leaders shared the vision of defending the self-determination of the peoples. We are seeing the images as President Maduro was saying farewell to the President of Iran, Ibrahim Raisi, after a very fruitful visit to the nation as part of his Latin American tour that will next see him visit Cuba and Nicaragua. Let's take a short break, but remember that teleSUR English continues to grow, and you can now tune in from 33 African countries through StarSat, Dial 461, and enjoy Latin American alternative podcasts. We'll be right back after a short break. Welcome back from the South. The President of the African Union Commission, Moussa Faki, warned on Monday that Sudan may collapse and witness a civil war if the clashes between the army and the rapid support forces continue. In Faki's view, the crisis in Sudan constitutes a serious threat to its existence and that of the entire region and does not admit any delay or obstruction. On Monday, the warring sides resumed fighting after the end of a 24-hour truce. Hostilities between the two sides broke out on April 15th over differences related to a plan for a transition to civilian rule. So far, the conflict has left hundreds dead, thousands wounded, and more than 1.9 million displaced. In addition, some 400,000 people crossed into neighboring countries, half of them heading north to Egypt. On Sunday, members of Mali security forces exercised their vote during early voting ahead of the referendum on the new constitution. The referendum scheduled for June 18th is an important milestone on the road to elections promised for February 2024. Next June 18th, Mali citizens will have to respond yes or no to the question of the referendum. The draft constitution strengthened the power of the president, and under it, it is the head of state and not the government who appoints the prime minister and ministers. The president also has the right to dismiss them and dissolve parliament. Constitutional change has long been under discussion in Mali. A referendum set for 2017 did not take place, and this June 18th referendum will be the first national vote since 2020. Authorities on Monday closed beaches in Pakistan's coastal city of Karachi and ordered fishermen back in anticipation of cyclone Biparjoy. Restaurants near the beach were closed to avoid loss of life, as authorities also ordered fishing boats back because of the threat posed by the approaching cyclone. From the Arabian Sea, cyclone Biparjoy is aiming at Pakistan's Sindh province and the coastline of the western Indian state of Gujarat. It is forecast to make landfall on Thursday and could reach maximum wind speeds of up to 200 km per hour. Biparjoy is the first severe cyclone to approach Pakistan since devastating floods last year left more than 1,000 people dead and over $30 billion in losses.
The Sindh government has failed to take adequate measures. There should have been lifeguards here at the beach. They should have stopped the public from visiting the beaches strictly. But there are people here on the beach. Policemen are trying to stop people but failing in their job.
The recent increase in the activity of the Popocatépetl volcano is affecting the lives of many residents in Mexico City, the country's capital. The volcano, located about 72 kilometers southeast of Mexico City on the border between the central states of Puebla, Morelos, and Mexico State, have been registering more frequent eruptions and even moderate explosions since May, accompanied by ashes and hot rocks. In this context, Mexican authorities issued a yellow alert for volcanic activity, the second highest alert in the nation. Meanwhile, experts forecasted that volcanic ash could reach more areas of Mexico City in June and July, affecting more residents.
We have to be aware of the warning alerts. That's the important thing. Always be informed so that you know what to do.
Cuban health authorities take corresponding actions to counteract epidemiological complications that may arise from the continuous rains. The Ministry of Public Health of Cuba, in the recovery stage, called to maintain personal and family hygiene, boil drinking water, discard contaminated food, wash and disinfect raw food such as fruits and vegetables. The heavy rains recorded in the largest of the Antilles left damage to homes, roads and agricultural areas. The authorities insist that the rains and the danger have not yet ceased, and the first thing to take care of is the lives of the citizens. Civilians were advised to go to the doctor in case of any symptom, be it fever, diarrhea or rash. We have come to the end of this news briefing. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. Also join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.